Hello YouTube, welcome to part 2 of our cherry cabinet build. Yesterday we had built the actual cabinet, and today we're going to focus on 3 things. We're going to focus on the toe kick we talked about, we got drawer boxes to build, and we got doors to build. So let's get started here. What we are going to start with is the toe kick, and I don't build the toe kicks into the side. I'd done that years ago and found out how weak that really was, so I built a separate toe kick. So I took a measurement from one inside to the other inside, which come out to be 63 7/8. That don't really matter in this video. So what we're going to do, this is equal to 2 sides of the toe kick, and the reason I leave it long or wide, you'll see that in a second. I have an old Bosch 1604. If anybody had worked in the cabinet shops throughout the years, these are probably the best router Bosch I think ever produced. They were just great workhorses. This router here is from back in the 1980s and it's still working very good. So all I did is just screwed on a board with a straight cut 2-flute bit, which is 3/4 inch in diameter. And then you can see I have all kind of different holes for different thicknesses and widths. That little piece of wood has built a lot of cabinets. You don't need to buy something that costs hundreds of dollars from Rockler or, you know, all these companies that make these guides. Just a little bit of simple ingenuity. You can go a long way in a shop. You don't need all this real fancy stuff that they're selling you today, unless you have lots of money. You can build a lot of stuff. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do the 2 ends first. So we'll go ahead and route these. And these are going to receive the cross pieces. We'll go over it a couple times. Okay, we got the top and bottom routed, which I didn't want to bore you with. In this case, we're going to put 2 cross members in this toe kick assembly because they're planning on putting a granite countertop on this cabinet, and I want extra support. So what I did is I made a layout line for the base of the router between the bit and the guide. Since it's just a toe kick, you're never going to see inside there. I just run a couple screws in there to hold anything for a guide. So we'll go ahead and route that real quick here. Okay, we got all the parts cut and everything has been pre-sanded, and the only reason I sanded is to get rid of the burrs where you have your dados and plows and stuff. Nothing more than simple construction. A couple rabbet joints, and all we're going to do is nothing more than a little bit of glue, a couple brads, and it don't take very long to put this together. Some people might say, well, why not just notch the toe kick? When you've had some failures on stuff, you try to rethink. I'm using 1 1/4 brads, and what we're going to do is come back and shoot it from the outside too. Okay, the intermediate ones, I made these 1/4 inch shy, and the reason being, when you're installing that cabinet, and all you want to do is just toenail this, just to hold it till that glue dries. And we'll come back with one through this way. When you're installing the cabinet, and if there's any high spots in the floor, you're going to be regretting making these go full. But you want to be flush up top, because that is where we're going to put all of our cross members at. So we're going to go ahead and finish nailing these up, and then I'm going to show you how I put these top stretchers on. I'll be with you here in a second. Okay, we got the sub base built, and now we're going to put the little cross pieces in and the end pieces, which will attach to the cabinet, and I'll show you how we do that. It's very simple. Well, you want to make sure, this is just scrap plywood. This got a finish on it. This is basically like a lacquer finish that they put on it at the factory. I like to leave the raw wood up because I'm going to put some glue when I attach it to the cabinet. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put glue on 3 sides of this. So this will attach to the base very, very tightly. So that way when we glue it to the actual base of the cabinet. And all we're going to do, same thing, 1¼ brads. And we're going to shoot at a slight angle. And again, once that glue catches, once that glue dries, this is never coming apart. And something about the nail guns to give you a little bit of advice. If you're using one nail gun and you're switching between fasteners all the time, just say I'm going to go to a shorter, well in this case I got longer nails, but if you're going to go from long nails to short nails, you want to be careful, because if one's still stuck in that chamber and you put your clip in and you're doing something where you're really critically, you don't want to go through it and destroy your project. I've done that before, so I'm just giving you some advice. Always make sure you shoot it into a piece of scrap and clear that chamber, because if you shot that through something that you put a lot of effort into building, you would be very, very upset. And also I marked the center of that lower piece, so that way I can come through there and pretty much know where the nail got to be. And you don't have to go crazy, but we're going to go ahead and continue putting these down, and I'll show you how this goes in the cabinet here in a second. Okay, we're ready to install this piece. Now here's how this all works. I had previously put this on here, test fit it, and I draw lines where the glue can go. And you just want to put some glue everywhere one of them plates are going to be, that 1/2 inch we put on top. And I see a little, always something to get underneath of it. Okay, you don't have to get crazy with it. Gravity will do a lot of the work. Today's cabinets really are, it's a shame how they build cabinets today. I don't think anybody has pride, and the quality today really has went downhill. So what we're going to do is nothing more than a couple 1¼ screws in each of the ends, and we're going to do a couple in the back here once we get the ends where we want them, because this end here is going to get veneer on it, and we'll do that at another part of this video. And just straighten that right out. I mean, some people might not like this method, but it worked for me for a lot of years, and I sure do like it. And what else we're going to do is anywhere, this is going to be supporting a lot of weight, so I cut some pieces to fit in between the face frame very tightly, and we're going to load this up with glue. We're just going to set that in there to dry, and then this will help transfer a lot more weight to the face frame. So we're going to go ahead and put these in. And our next step, we're going to start on some drawers, so we'll talk to you then. Okay, let's talk drawers. First of all, you need to know what hardware you're going to use before you can properly size your drawer box. I use the side-mounted slides. These are all ball bearing. They're terrific. They hold up and they carry a lot of load. I think these might be 125 pounds. And the ones I use, when it gets to a certain point, it soft closes. So there's a little mechanism back inside there that creates that little bit of a soft close. Bloom makes them with the, but they're undermount, and your drawer construction will be a lot different than what we're going to do here today. What I'm going to show you today is we're going to use a half-blind dovetail. And it's not that difficult, so don't overthink it. It's done on a nice little jig here, so we're going to show you how we're going to do these. But before we get started on this, we have got to get the drawer layout done. I know what the width of my drawer is going to be. I know what the depth of my drawer is going to be. The sides, you have to account for this thickness here. This is 5/16, and you're going to do this twice, so you're talking 5/8 of an inch that you're going to make this shorter. So it would have been 15 inches total, so we're going 14 3/8, and that distance gets added back on with your front and back. Your width will be true when you cut it. In this case, these runners take 1 inch less. So it's a 1/2 inch on each side. And they're saying plus or minus a 1/16 of an inch. So it gives you a 32nd of an inch play, plus or minus, and they will work properly at that point. Also, this is all going to be the inside of the drawers right here. So everything's laid out for the insides. Also, I've jointed one edge. The bottom is saw cut. So we're going to start out, we're going to put an X. That indicates top. And we're going to start with number 1. And we're going to do number 1 here. And we're going to put the X for the top. We're going to come back here, we're going to put number 2. We're going to put number 2. We're going to put the X for the top. We're going to come over to number 3. Number 3, we're going to put our X for the top. We're going to come back, number 4. And number 4. Next step, we're going to go to the router jig. I'm going to get a better camera angle on there, and I'm going to show you how simple it is. It's nothing more than a handheld router with a template bushing, and this template bushing follows the fingers on the dovetail jig. Everything has to be set up correctly. It takes some time to get it till it's dialed in, so don't get frustrated if you get one of these jigs. Cut a bunch of scrap, take some time, don't cut your good pieces and expect perfect results the first time out of the gate. Okay, we'll be with you here in a second. I'm going to get this set up and we'll start routing some joints. Okay, I got this. This is made by Porter Cable. It's an Omni jig. This is more of the high-end, more of a commercial use jig. I don't make many drawers anymore. I had considered buying an actual machine at one point, but it wouldn't be worth the investment at this point. This does a very good job. Just got to take your time. So, with this jig, you're going to do the front and back will be on the top deck of this. So you're going to slip your board in, and your X will always go to the outside of the jig. This is your side. We got number 1 and number 1. This is going to come up from the front side, and you're just going to lock it slightly down. Then you're going to bring this in until it meets nice and square, and you got to make sure you're touching your stop. If you don't take the extra second or two and get this lined up really good, your results will be very poor. And then we're making sure that this board is touching the fingers, which it is, because this is going to give you proper depth, and your fit will be just absolutely perfect if you take that extra second. Okay, now we're ready to route. So the first step that they recommend is you come across the face of this backward and just to score that little bit off, and it sort of helps it. Poplar does mill very well. That's why I choose poplar for my drawer boxes. You can make them out of whatever you want, but the harder wood, you're going to have a harder time with it, because this bit is only 1/4 inch shank, and they'll break pretty easily. So here we go. So we come backwards. Now we go into each pocket, pull it bottoms out, bring it out around, bottom it out, and just slowly work it. And everybody here is capable of doing this. Everybody watching this, if you took a little bit of time. Now we're going to check our fit. And sometimes they're a little bit tight. In this case, that's what you want. You don't want it. You don't want to have to beat this together. I got to get glue in there. We got a nice flush fit here, and it's a good-looking joint. So once it's all routed up, we're going to go ahead and finish up the other sides. And I'll get back with you here in a second. I'll show you how you cut the bottoms in. Okay, we're back at the table saw now. And what we're going to do is I just use my test piece to make sure that we're cutting in a correct area because you only got one chance to do this. So with the X pointing away from the rip vents and down towards the saw table, because this is the inside of the drawer, we want to cut a groove through all four sides to receive some 1/4-inch oak plywood, which will be the drawer bottom. So it's going to take 2 passes. If I was going to do a bunch of drawers, more than 3, I would probably put the dado head in here and do everything in 1 pass. But we're doing 3 drawers. It's not worth all my time and effort. So, you know, you can do what you want. If you want to set up a dado head for, you know, 9 or 12 pieces or whatever, you go ahead and do it. But I'm not going to take that time. So let's go ahead and make 2 cuts. And I'm going to start with my sample piece just to get the thickness adjusted when we come through for the final adjustment. So you can see, you're going to have to do it in 2 passes. And always look for that X. Okay, everything has now been cut to size, test fitted, sanded, and now it's time for assembly. So, and always test fit your stuff. Don't get it full glue and then figure out that it don't fit. Make for a very bad day. So, we won't need that for a second. So we're going to do, starting with the side laying on this side, we're going to get this assembled and this assembled, and then we're going to work our way to the other side. So basically just put a glob of glue on a board, get yourself one of these acid brushes that you use for plumbing, and we're going to do, basically, you don't want to get crazy here. Don't take much glue. I see people just, it's squeezing out everywhere, and then you have a big mess to clean up later. Then it gets all over your finish. Also, do not glue the bottom of your drawer. That has to float. Same as when we're going to do our doors, you're going to find out the same thing. You do not glue your panel. And that's where people will find their biggest failures, if you start over gluing stuff that has to move. Okay, now, and I put the numbers down low because I sanded the sides. And you just want to just very lightly just get inside there. Now you got glue on both mated surfaces. While you have this piece in your hand, do the opposite side, because it'll be a little bit tough when it's on the actual drawer. Okay, that will work. So that goes into there, and we're going to get number 1. Do the same thing. Push this down. Okay, now it's time to put the bottom in. Making sure you have the good side going up into your drawer. Okay, that seems like a nice fit. Now what I forget to do, the opposite side, see that? That's what hurrying does. Okay, now our last piece, we're going to glue up all the pins. I'll tell you what, give this thing about an hour and come back and try to pull it apart. You'll be impressed. It will not come apart. Dovetails, I think, today are kind of overrated because today we got all the really good hardware. Back in the day, there was no slides. It was usually wood on wood with either a sliding dovetail type thing or slid on some cleats. And it wasn't very smooth. So we're going to glue this together and work this bottom in. Sometimes takes a minute. There it goes. Now, time to clamp it up. A little bit of advice. See the blue tape on there? Guess why? Blue tape will keep this from sticking. I don't know if I have a rag around here or not. Yes, I do. Just wipe off the excess. Later on, you're going to come back and sand this all out. So, we'll start with this side. Putting your blue tape towards the glued surface and just basically put some clamp pressure on it. And you don't need to go real crazy on this, just enough to hold it for a short amount of time. Within an hour we'll be sanding these down and finishing them up. So okay, that's all you need there. We'll do the same thing on this side, and we'll talk to you here in a minute. Okay, now we got the drawers, we're all done. They turned out really nice. I'm very happy with them. Cabinet door time. A little bit about cabinet doors, a little basic. There's actually 4 components to a cabinet door, and I'll show you the last one here in a minute. First of all, you got your stiles, you got your rails, you got a panel. Sometimes they're raised, sometimes they're flat, but you have a panel. The 4th thing is, and I don't own a little bunny rabbit, these are called space balls, and they go inside the rails and stiles, and they go in their spacers. And what that does, when you put this all together, this will center the panel, and it keeps it from rattling around, because if you don't put them in there, you got to cut your panel loose first of all. You have to allow for this panel to expand and contract. And if you look at it now, look how crooked it's sitting. When you put them space balls in there and pull it down with clamps, it just centers that panel nice and lets it float in there. So that is basically the 4 components of a cabinet door. So we're going to go ahead and make our 3 doors, and I'm going to go ahead and get some parts ready, and we're going to show you how we do all the machining. And I happen to have a very nice machine to do this. It does all the cuts on one machine, and you don't have to reset it every time. It has all the cutters in place, and all you do is dial them in. So we'll go ahead and get the parts cut, and then I'll show you how I machine a door and how we glue them up. I'll talk to you then. Okay, we're at the door machine now. And I've showed this in a past couple videos a long time ago, but we'll go over it real quick. This machine is equipped with 3 different cutter heads underneath this fence. Maybe later on I can remove the guard to show everybody what the actual thing looks like. But I'll stick the camera down low here. And it's got the panel cutter on the bottom, then you got your cope and pattern for your rails and stiles. You can change your cutters real easily. It's all pneumatic controlled. And there's a set of air clamps that hold the board down into place so that it don't move around while it's getting machined. And then we'll come in closer here. There's a fence. And this is the setup fence. So every time you bring the fence out, it puts the board in the correct location. So we're going to start with our rails. And you always want to do is also mark the X. So I'm looking at the back of the door with the X, so my better face would be always down. This is the way this machine works. Now the panel, it goes the opposite. So basically, you put the board in till it touches that stop, You hit your clamps down, and now you're ready to make a cut. So I'm going to fire up the dust system, and I'm going to try to just mount the camera on here. I don't know what all you'll see, but we'll try to get you some video of it if it makes any sense to you. But you'll get to see the cuts after they're done, and you'll get to appreciate how fast this is done. If anybody had made doors with the old shaper, changing cutters and everything, you'll really appreciate this. So we'll go ahead and get the dust system fired up here, and we'll get started on these doors. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started on this. I don't know how good this video is going to turn out actually, so I'm going to show you how fast we can machine one door as far as the cope cuts and the pattern cuts. Then we're going to go back to the workbench and measure for the panel separately. So here we go. Done with that operation. Now we're going to change the cutter head. So now we're going to put the board in against the fence. Are complete at this point. So we're going to get the stiles. There it is, one machine door, and we'll go over to the workbench and we'll start size it up for the panel. Okay, it's time to raise the panel on the door. So this has been cut to proper size and it's ready to put the panel raise on it. So start with, always do the end grain first. And you end up with the end grain last, so that if there's any tear out, or you end up with a straight grain for the last run. You'll see what I mean here in a second. So we're all set up with the panel cutter has been cued in, so we're going to make our first cut. Now you can see it's going the top and bottom at the same time. So that's our relief. It's already done, all one pass. going to be any tear out, it would be on the straight grain, so it wouldn't be so bad as an end grain. Now this is one time you wish you could smell in this shop. This cherry just smells terrific when it's being machined. I mean, you can just smell it all over the shop. So this is ready for a final sanding, and we're going to go ahead and assemble this door. So we'll see you back at the workbench. Okay, it's time to assemble this door. Some people overthink it. Some people get all frustrated. If you have everything ready to go and you're fairly organized, this can go fairly easy. This is just a basic door. We don't have no center mullions. We don't have nothing that's going to be out of the ordinary, so it's going to be a pretty basic assembly. So, starting out with my space balls. These look like the little rabbit turds. I already put them in the other one, so you're going to put 2 in each rail and stile, and they're going to space them out, and all they're going to do is center that panel. So it's not all that hard to do. Just make sure that they don't interfere with your joint. Okay, glue only when you're putting the door together. You don't need no pins, you don't need staples. So you're going to start out just a little bit of glue on the back. And you don't want to get too messy here, because once you start getting sloppy, it'll show up. You only need it on one surface. You don't need to do both sides. So we're going to glue both pieces, both of the rails. And just work a decent amount in there. You don't, like, again, don't go crazy with it. Under no circumstances do you ever glue your panel. Okay, we're going to start with one side, making sure you're as close to flush as you can be. Now we're going to put the panel in, making sure that the front is on the front. And you know how easy that is to do? Trust me. I've done that a couple times. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and slip the other rail on. Now we'll get the last stile. And we're going to work this all in. And I didn't mention about the blue tape, but I put blue tape on the bar clamp right where the joint's going to be, because cherry's not so bad, but when you start dealing with oak, you'll get a bad reaction with the steel on the clamp, and it'll make a black spot there. So we want to just slight pressure, get this bottom absolutely, this has to be perfect. There's no other way around this. And you just want to, just a small amount of clamp pressure. You don't need to go crazy on anything as far as over torquing it. And I try to keep the same distance on the clamp. And the other weapon that you want to have ready to go is a mallet, just a and we're going to snug it up, and that's it. We're going to let it dry. Another thing I forgot to mention, a lot of controversy on the panel. Do you stain the edge first before you assemble it, or wait till you're done? You can do the edge with the stain. I do not have the stain back in my hands yet. I had to get a custom match through the company I deal with. there's pros and cons. You put the stain on here, around the edge only. Now, when you go back to restain the door for the finish, there's a chance that you're going to get a little dark shadow around here because now you're putting 2 coats on there instead of 1. So, you know, yes and no. If you work the stain in really good along the edge, it's going to wick back in there. You shouldn't have no problem with it. But yeah, some old timers, they said just put the stain on the edge, but then sometimes you get that real dark right around the edge where you had already stained it once. So we're going to leave it sit on the clamps, no nails, no nothing. Leave it sit for about an hour, and you would never be able to get this door back apart without it being all busted up. So the glue will hold it. So we will talk to you here shortly. Okay, that concludes this video, which is part 2 of the cherry cabinet. And I hope everybody learned something from this. I don't want to make this too long, drawn out, and boring, but the drawer fronts will be done the same way on that door machine. Just cut an edge profile on it, and it's done. That's all we're going to do. It's just going to be a flat front. So next video, we'll be putting the final finishes on this cabinet, as far as staining and sanding sealer and lacquer, and putting all the hardware on and getting this cabinet ready to deliver. So that will be the 3rd and final part of this. So hope everybody enjoyed. We will try to keep you more shop videos coming. I see the response is very good on this, and there was some really nice comments. And one person actually said, was I a teacher at one time? No, I was never a teacher. I would have loved to have been a shop teacher, but I'm not college material. So I will talk to everybody on the next video. Bye.